All right, welcome back to Hanging Einstein. This is going to be episode 10 with a distinguished and special guest. They all are distinguished and special, but this one has a unique distinction as the first female ever to appear on Hanging Einstein. And I've received several requests to have a female guest, and there are many in the football industry and community now. But I've chosen to go with one that's kind of like my kid sister. I affectionately refer to her as my kid sister. She is the youngest sister of her fantasy football sisters, Miss Courtney Kirby. Welcome to Hanging Einstein. How are you today?
Very good. Thanks for having me on. I feel honored to be the first female.
You should, and it is an honor. But I jokingly refer to you as like my little sister because A, you are a little sister. B, I think I'm slightly older than you. C, we have a rivalry that I am friends with your sisters, but nobody shares the rivalry that you and I share.
Absolutely not.
Courtesy of Mr. Scott Fish and the Fishbowl. You have now defeated me 2 straight years. And I have already requested he somehow finds a way to finagle the random choosing of divisions next year because I have to get my revenge on you at some point. But let me allow you now to introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, where you're from, all that kind of good stuff. Sure.
I'm Courtney Kirby. I'm from Denver, Colorado. I'm a Broncos fan. I don't mind telling people that. Our company is Her Fantasy Football. You can find us at herfantasyfootball.com and at Her Fantasy FB on Twitter. You can also listen to us on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio every Saturday night from 8 to 10 Eastern. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Now, you say you're from Denver, and I mentioned you're the youngest of the Her Fantasy Football sisters. But do you have other siblings, or is it just the 3 of you?
It's just the 3 of us. Yep. And my middle sister, she lives in Denver as well, and my oldest sister's in New York. So.
Okay. So now this show is about everything but football. It's football personalities, but everything but football. So I know your story, but I don't know if everybody knows your story, whether it be from a straggler that just happened to click on this YouTube channel or one of your, friends, fans, followers, whatever, or one of mine. But how did you get involved in football and why football? Like, what is your love and your passion for it?
Yeah, my dad played football in college, and my mom was always a sports fan growing up with her dad. And so when we were all born, football was part of our life. It just always has been. Always been Denver Broncos fans. We'd go to the games and watch Elway. We were there when he retired. I still remember crying in the stands. It was awful. But as we got older, our weekends were entailed. Friday night, we went to high school football games. Saturday was CU Boulder, and then Sunday was the Broncos. And, in the mornings, we would do our own sports. We played competitive volleyball, Ashley and I, and Brandon was a dancer. So, that was what our life was, all 3 of us. And it's just the girls. So, we never played, but we've always enjoyed it. And about 8-9 years ago, we started our family fantasy league. Okay. And that's how I got into fantasy. My sisters had done work leagues 2 years previous to that. So they've been in it for a decade or a little bit more.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's kind of how our love of football came about.
Well, now you mentioned you were crying in the stands with Elway and all that. And the obvious shot here to take at you would be, well, let me tell you, little girl, there's no crying in football. My football's falling for the shock of even thinking to say it to you. But the sad truth is, I guarantee there are probably more grown men crying.
Oh, absolutely.
Than you that
day. Absolutely. Everybody was crying in the stands. Always such a big part of Denver. You couldn't at that point go a block without seeing a John Elway car dealership even.
Right.
He was everywhere. So it was a big part of us. We had tears of joy when Cutler left, tears of confusion when Tebow was here.
Okay.
And tears of joy when Peyton came. So,
and those are now tears of joy, of sadness again.
Of sadness again. It's so sad. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that extends beyond Denver. That's basically any fantasy owner at this point,
Oh my gosh.
including myself in the aforementioned fishbowl.
Yeah. Well, I blame Indianapolis because Andrew Luck has had a season too. So I think it has to start there.
Really? Did you have to do that?
Yeah.
I think that's my other quarterback on that team. Thank you very much. You see, this is why I have no problems taking shots at her, because she back. The reason I was getting with all that is because it's kind of like, I don't think there's a gender stereotype in sports, specifically football, anymore. I mean, it's such a popular entity in itself. It's no longer just, the guys getting together for the Super Bowl party and the wife or the mom or whatever making the appetizers. No, in some cases it's completely the opposite of that now.
Absolutely.
And where the guys actually making the food and the women are getting together watching the game and actually watching the game. So the reason I say that is because, like, what do you do in the rest of your life? And how do you balance what you do with the writing and the website and all that with being a wife and a mom and everything like that as well?
Yeah, I am a stay-at-home mom. I have 2 daughters. My oldest is turning 6 tomorrow, and right. So I fit this interview in right between some last-minute shopping for her, and so it's a joy. I mean, how awesome is it that we get to do fantasy football as a side career / hobby? I think it's great. I mean, being in a lot of leagues is worse than having to deal with her fantasy football, I think, because it's just a lot more stressful to have to set your lineups for that many teams than it is to talk football. I mean, I find it really enjoyable. Okay. Writing, I do not find as enjoyable. That's definitely not my favorite part of being a fantasy analyst, but talking football and doing the numbers and predicting that's I think it's awesome. So
you much prefer the podcast angle as opposed to the writing of the articles?
Oh, absolutely.
I can't blame you, and I've adopted that now into the video aspect, like such as this. But so you've only told us, like, for anybody watching right now, all they think is you eat, sleep, and breathe football. Right. But what are some of your other hobbies and interests? Like, if Denver, like, for instance, let's just say hypothetically, like, the Denver quarterback threw 4 interceptions, fumbled, and got benched, and you were like, this game's over, and you turned off the television, what would be something else you'd like either turn to or to watch or to read or whatever?
I always say that if it's really bad TV, I probably watch it. I've watched. I do watch some good TV like Mad Men and Breaking Bad, but for the most part, I'm a reality TV junkie. And I'm not even ashamed to say it because I know I'm not the only one out there because it still exists. But yeah. Bravo and I are probably best friends after the Red Zone. So that's definitely what I would be turning on. That and cartoons, unfortunately, that tends to be my life now. But as for reading, I'm not a huge reader. I would read newspapers and whatever my husband brings home that he thinks is a moment I can sit down and read. But right now it's just filled with kids stuff. I don't get to do much of skiing right now, or I used to enjoy skiing, and but it's kids.
Well, you've met my fiance, and by the way, yes. she says hello.
Love her, gorgeous and wonderful, and just so sweet and funny.
Thank you. I got lucky, but I say that because I can fully relate to the Bravo thing and the reality show, because if you look at our DVR, it's about 2% of my shows and stuff I'd be interested in watching, and then it's 98% Say Yes to the Dress, and it's 18 spinoffs. That I can understand because we're scheduled to get married, but as far as everything else, the housewives of every county in America, but it's like over the top.
It's so bad, and it's yet so good. Biggest Loser is another one. Any weight loss shows, sign me up.
Well, I mean, see, this might be the only way I can politically correctly get away with making a gender stereotypical joke is with the reality shows. So I'll stop with that though for a minute. But I usually ask the guests, and up until this point, they've all been male, what their wives do. And usually we come to agreement that the women are usually the smartest one in the household, or at least with the guys that have been on the show. What does your husband do, and how comfortable or uncomfortable is he with the fact that most of his guy friends probably ask or want to ask his wife for fantasy football advice and not him? So
yeah, my husband works for Colorado. He works for the Colorado State of Transportation. So he helps plan the roads and how the money is going to be dispersed to fix the transportation problems in Colorado. And he's been doing that for a few years and really enjoys it. As far as fantasy, I started with him. It was my family, and then we brought in our significant others. And we played in another league together as well with some of our fans from he also serves tables at Red Robin on Saturdays, and I used to be there frequently serving tables as well when we were younger. And so we have like several regulars, as you would say, and other team members that we play with, and old bosses, and so it's kind of like our Red Robin league of sorts. So we're very competitive. We always joke about how, the divorce papers are signed next to the bed table, ready to go whenever whenever we've had a bad Sunday together. But we're 1 for 1. He's beat me once and I've beaten him once. So
he's got a better record head to head with you than I do.
Yes, he does. He does. But he's great. He loves that I'm in fantasy. He thinks it's wonderful. He's very supportive of my sisters and I, and he brags at work, so he loves it.
Okay. Is the name of that Red Robin League Yum?
It's not, actually. But some people have Red Robin themed names. Mine is Moneymaker.
We don't have Red Robins in New York, so there's several like restaurant chains that we don't have in New York, but yet they play the commercials in New York. So it's
annoying.
It's like torture.
Torture.
It really is. Like Chick-fil-A, we don't have Chick-fil-A in New York, but everybody talks about it. So it's a hard Sonic. You see the Sonic commercials all the time.
Don't have those.
But we do have a horrible infrastructure with the roads. So is there any way we might be able to get your husband to come help us out over here, because the roads are ridiculous?
Oh, I know, that stinks. We're lucky that Colorado puts a lot of time and effort into our roads. We have more problems up in the mountains, but that's just because of weather-related stuff then.
Well, you mentioned skiing, and you're in Denver, and so is your sister. So is that where you guys, in fact, grew up?
Yeah, we were born in Boulder. My parents had just finished college there, so we were all born in Boulder. We moved to Nebraska for a few years, and then moved back to Colorado. So
now I just happened to see the 30 for 30 on Buffalo, and if I'm not mistaken, Nebraska and Colorado do not mix.
No, they do not, and it was really fun, actually. Well, it was a promotion, my dad's promotion, that moved us to Nebraska. But there were such wonderful people there. Every game that CU played the Huskers, they would deck out my dad's office in Huskers gear. Literally take off all of his picture frames and put up Husker stuff, paint a wall red. Replace the seat with a red seat. It was covered in Huskers, but they were such good sports about it. Mm-hmm. They're really wonderful people in Nebraska. I haven't met a bad person from there. So it was really fun. But we were very excited to move back to Colorado.
Okay. And sports in general, like wherever you go, that's the beauty of sports in my mind, is that it brings so many people together. And then the rivalries, like you can have so much fun with it. There's passion, but at the end of the day, like everybody goes home. Even if your team's a loser, you still go home with your health intact. Hopefully,
right.
Things like that, and you live to see another day. And it's a nice, healthy rivalry and competition, all that. You mentioned your dad played football. Was that in high school? Or did he also play in college?
He played in college. He played at CU. They went to the Orange Bowl and won that year, but he did not actually play. He had torn, I believe it was his ACL that year, so he was not playing. But yeah, they were really good when my dad was playing.
See, well, I don't want to shift the focus from you because you're my guest to your dad, but
No,
this is pretty cool. Like I never knew
yeah,
this.
yeah.
And I just mentioned I was watching the 30 for 30 on Buffalo, and I used to have a Colorado starter jacket because I was like in my early teens when that was going on, and I thought they were awesome. And watching the their option, the triple option, and it was amazing. They were beating everybody and running up the scoreboard and everything like that. So this is when your dad was there, and he went to the Orange Bowl.
My dad was back in the 70s when they went to the Orange Bowl.
Okay.
Yeah, we're older than that, but yes, you're talking about the 90s.
I'm talking about the 90s, correct?
90s, yes, yeah. Well, he would be. I mean, that would be crazy if he was in college and had already an 8-year-old and
I guess
10-year-old, and
I guess so. I'm either bad at math or bad at Colorado football history.
You're talking about the 90s, and that was lots of fun. But in the 70s is when he went and played there. And in high school, he was a receiver and a cornerback, and he also returned kicks for Cherry Creek High School, which was the largest high school in Colorado at that point. And then he went to CU, and I believe he just played receiver and would return kicks occasionally for them then.
Nice. That's awesome to be able to say that, though. Not everybody can say that.
Yeah, I mean, he likes to brag about the fact that he had the biggest fro on the team. That I think that was a big thing for him.
Okay. I'm a little concerned for your father, though. So he had 3 daughters, and you mentioned you have at least one. Do you have 2 girls yourself?
I have 2 girls. Yeah.
And
yep.
Do you have any nephews, or are they all nieces in your family?
Well, my sisters do not have children yet.
Okay.
So I'm the only one with kids. So it is just the 2 girls. On my husband's side, he does have 2 nephews. So there are boys alive somewhere, just not in the Williams crew.
Your dad really is endearing to his son-in-laws, I'm imagining.
He loves them. But, he always says he wouldn't have traded having 3 girls. We were all very athletic, and so he got to enjoy sports just as much. I mean, it wasn't football, but, we all played softball and basketball. And so he got that out of us as well.
Okay, fair enough. So now you and your sisters have this entity going, and you've gotten a lot of momentum going the last few years. You've been able to kind of you've gotten to a point, which is always a nice thing in life, where you guys can kind of dictate what you want to do and what works for you without losing your brand and your audience and things like that. I mention that because and if you want me to take this, I will, but I mentioned this because you guys at one point had gotten affiliated with ESPN and then weren't happy with the direction that was going. And have been able to say, you know what, we appreciate what you guys do and we respect what you guys do, but that's not what we do. And we don't want to be kind of put in that same, in those same parameters, if you will. And that's kind of what I mean, is that you have not lost any of the momentum you built leading up to that, or any of your fan base or anything like that, because people are with you for what you guys bring to the table. And it wasn't, just the simple fact that it was from a female perspective. Is you guys know what you're talking about, and you guys are good at what you do. So what direction would you say you guys are looking to go towards in the future at this point?
I mean, it's been quite the learning process. When it came to ESPN, that was definitely the biggest thing, I would say, hurdle we've gone through for her fantasy football, as far as branding and how people want to put us out there for their company. But you're right. I mean, we've been very fortunate for the people who started off with our podcast, that we didn't lose them because they knew what we were and how we come off. And, we're not just straight-laced fantasy. We are entertainment. We always say, we are humor, and we have fun, and we laugh and make inappropriate jokes. And, we talk about fantasy orgies and getting your paper towels at Costco. And, we have fun, and we're not completely PC about everything. But we were lucky enough to sign on with SiriusXM this year, and for them to give us a shot has been fabulous. signing up with Jay Suttonberg with Blog Talk Radio. He's a wonderful person, and they seem to have always understood that we are females, but we are not just talking to females.
Right.
And they've appreciated us for that and let us do us and not take over our voice.
Right.
As some others have tried to do. So it's been really, we enjoy radio, we enjoy, our podcast. And I think that's where we kind of want to stick for now, is just continue with that path and see where it goes. It's been really fun.
Understood. Now, as far as the football angle, are there any sports you guys are interested in, or is this just strictly football for you? Because me, I always say I played basketball in college. I've been a big baseball fan my whole life, but football is like the most brings us together more than any other sport, I find, because it's just such the way it's formatted and structured, just 1 week and the intensity of it and things of that nature. So do you have any other rooting interests besides?
I mean, we've always talked about growing her fantasy football with other fantasy sports, basketball. My middle sister and I love golf. I have not played fantasy golf, but we do love that. Right. Yeah, and from hockey, we have the Avs, and so we kind of grew up with Waugh and Sakic, and but our specialty is definitely football.
Okay.
We enjoy watching the other ones. We know the rules, but we couldn't, at least I couldn't, I'll speak for myself, go talk to you for 6 hours about players from all the other different teams in the NHL. I just couldn't do that for you. Right. So we've talked about expanding it, but we would love to get other females who are obsessed with basketball or obsessed with or hockey and have them use our name and do them. We're all about women supporting women and moving forward in that way. I think we could have an educational golf show, the three of us girls, but as far as, baseball is it's like every day. That would be a full-time job. Someone would have to be paying us some serious money to do a baseball fantasy show, because you don't have to do more than just once a week like we do for football. Yeah, that would be really intense. So. Right,
it becomes a challenge because it's exactly that, and that's why I say like football brings us, I think, people together the most because it's a lot easier to comprehend than casual fans of baseball or fantasy baseball. That you're really serious if you're playing fantasy baseball to that kind of level.
Oh, for sure.
Whereas with football, it's you can play, like you said, you start out with office pools or family pools or things like that. So even if you're like a crazy, psychotic, fantasy football player like yourself or myself, you can be in a league with somebody who's just kind of casual. And you know what? That casual person who listened to your show or listened to me and picked up somebody on the waiver wire has just as good odds to beat the psychotic player enthusiast.
Oh yeah, that's all day, every day on their computer and way over analyzing everything.
Exactly. Yeah. Have you been taken swept into the DFS storm that's kind of emerged in the last 2-3 years? It's been out a little longer, but it's really been like the last 2 years that's just kind of like jumped up like 1,000 pegs in the spectrum.
Yeah, sure. Yes, in the last 2 years, in fact, is exactly how long I've been doing it. I'm not. We have a daily fantasy competition for Her Fantasy Football on FanDuel. Okay. So if you subscribe to herfantasyfootball.com, we'll send you the rules. But it's diced, and we give you 4 ingredients on how to set your lineup, and we'll be like you can't spend more than $5,500 on a tight end, or you have to play 2 people from a primetime show or whatever. So that's been fun. And I always do that. And occasionally I'll do 1 or 2, entries as well. But I'm not putting in 100 lineups. I do it more just for fun than for money.
Yeah. I'm the same way with the DFS stuff. It's really more just to have something to talk about, a rooting interest, when people are asking me about good ads or pricing. So I'm at least a little familiar with it and versed with it, try to help people out. But I'm not one of these guys that's really like you said, putting in hundreds of lineups, and I respect it. It's just
Absolutely, yeah.
I will lose track of it so much. And then there's always the guy that I forget is a game time decision, and then I don't realize he's been ruled out until the game's already started, and then I'm that guy that gets screwed usually. But the reason I'm leading to all this is because obviously it's a huge topic and debate now, and New York being such a huge, I keep referring to New York as such a huge domino to kind of start this chain of events and the ball rolling on these sanctions and legalities being made about it. What do you feel is kind of like the future of it? Do you think it's something that will survive in a legal aspect? Do you think it's just something that needs to be regulated and it will come back to us just in a different form? Or do you fear that this might be something that gets taken away from us just as it's getting started?
Yeah, I hope it doesn't get taken away. I hope, as FanDuel put it, this is just, politics. And once they realize that this isn't going to be good for, first of all, their city, state, it's not just people who are invested in this. You're talking about all the football teams and basketball teams and some stadiums, and that they'll take a step back and realize, this is a game of skill. I mean, we've all met those people who spend hours upon hours upon hours figuring out the perfect numbers for their teams. Right. And people who spend months upon months before setting, doing their drafts for their season longs too. People are, this isn't just some of it can be luck, but it is, you have to put some effort into it and research and do your diligence to set your lineups to win. And I think that hopefully they just take a step back and just let it keep going, because it's fun. And I know, I enjoy it. I'm not in it to win tons of money. I just enjoy doing it. So I don't know.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Like we were both just saying, like we're not even like the diehards that play it, but there is, there is a need for it. I'm kind of curious to see personally what the results of people that are like have a serious problem with it and have like lost significantly. Like traditional gambling, you see it becomes an issue because people like lose their homes and then their marriages and their families because they start losing tens and 20s, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Things like, I don't know of anything that exists like that in DFS. So to call it, gambling and people are really losing the shirts off their back, like I think it's different. And I could be wrong, and I might be naive in saying that, and I hope I'm not, because I don't think there's any harm in it, to be honest, at least at this point. So I do hope it comes back. I want to ask you also, I've never personally been to Colorado, Aspen, all these places. I'm not a big skier, none of that stuff. So but obviously it's a huge travel destination. So are there places you would recommend for people traveling to Colorado, to Denver, to Aspen, to any of the hot spots that you personally say you have to check out, whether it's landmarks, monuments, your favorite places?
My favorite place in Colorado is Red Rocks Amphitheater. I think it's one of the best places you can see a concert, and it literally doesn't matter what concert it is. If it's your favorite band, if it's, the Backstreet Boys, or who doesn't, it doesn't matter. I mean, it could be the worst performance or performer ever, but being there within the rocks, and when you're looking down at the concert, behind it, you see all the lights of Denver, and it's so amazing. They even do movies there. And it's one of my favorite spots. You can go there during the day and walk all the stairs and for exercise. So that's fabulous. It's a good place. As for the mountains, I mean, I don't think you can go wrong in any of the locations. My family always goes to Keystone, but Aspen and Vail are fabulous places. Breckenridge is another one of my favorites. I
Okay.
think that's it, the original brewery in Denver, Colorado. I think it's right off of between 2nd and 3rd. I can't remember what the intersection is, but right by 16th Street Mall. It's a dive place, but they have the best green chili, which I know is a regional thing, but everything's smothered in green chili here in Colorado.
Green chili.
Oh yeah, green chili. It's everywhere. And they have the best there. And if you like hot food, you get the mild, because hot just literally you will blow your mind. Like you'll have 2 bites and you'll be like, I'm done. I can't breathe. But it's one of my favorites as well.
You said the original brewery. Is that Coors or is?
No, it's called the Rock Bottom. No, it's not Rock Bottom Brewery. It's called, I believe it's just called The Brewery downtown, and it's a restaurant, and they have chains now. For the brewery 2 and 3, but those are not the same. You have to go to the one original downtown. Okay. Yes, and it's amazing.
Well, I was going to ask, is the only beer that you're allowed to drink in Colorado, in fact, Coors, or are you allowed to drink anything else?
Hey, you know what? Colorado, we call ourselves the Napa of beer because we have a lot of home brewed beers here in Colorado, a lot. So, you can drink anything. We have quite the beer selection in most restaurants.
And in Colorado, there's also a lot of homegrown things now.
Yes, we home grow a lot in Colorado. Okay. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Legalized and all.
Another thing that should be brought to New York, along with your husband, to fix our roads.
Yes.
Denver's looking, other than the Broncos, Denver's looking better and better by the day.
And we have the best weather. I mean, it literally beer, marijuana, and weather. I don't know what more you want from us.
Things you'll never hear on any other fantasy football. What is the weather in mid-November in Colorado?
You know what? We are having our first blizzard as we speak right now. Supposedly, it's coming in. So we'll see how it actually turns out. It often in Colorado it'll snow, and then the next day it'll be 65 degrees, sunny, and the snow will all melt and go away.
Yeah, it's 65 in New York in mid-November, which is just not normal.
I know.
Not at all.
No, it's been crazy here.
Yeah, well,
crazy. So it's.
I'm starting to get a little worried that, like, something temperature-wise is. I don't think that it'll level out. The only problem is now it seems to be pushing further and further back. So in a few years, it seems like June is going to be still 20 degrees, and January is going to be 50. So we're going to have to reconvene what our seasons are. I have been getting my guests to give away gifts to the audience. So is there something I can persuade you to give to somebody that will be the winner recipient of one of the contests that I have yet to put out there, but will in the near future? I have a nice catalog of nice parting gifts for people that tune into the show.
We have a Her Fantasy Football mug. I can totally.
I would love to be able to give that away.
I was gonna say, sorry about my offensive red cup today.
Was it
a bit of a cold, and I need my little hot drink to go down.
Hot toddy. Who would you be offending with the red cup?
The whole Starbucks, red cup thing that everyone's.
They just got a free cup. I'll send them an invoice for royalties on it.
Yeah, they're good. Thank you.
Thank you for plugging them. So now I can build them.
Yeah, you bet.
I'm just writing this down. Her Fantasy Football mug that I will gladly raffle off to a lucky viewer. I'm gonna let you go in a moment because I know you have the daughter's birthday celebration to prepare for, and it was just revealed that you are fighting you're a little under the weather. So I definitely appreciate you making the time and the sacrifice to join me today.
Absolutely. I love being here. It's been fabulous. You're great, Andy. And you're one of my favorites because you're so easy to beat. So,
well, I appreciate that. And this is why like I said, this is why I had to get you on, because you're somebody we take a lot of friendly shots at each other because, you get it, I get it. And it's a friendly rivalry. But I wanted to ask you a couple questions, rapid fire format. You mentioned the daughters. You mentioned you are now a big cartoon watcher. So what is one or two characters or theme songs you might say that you originally hated when your child first started watching the show that has now grown on you and you're a fan of?
I would have to say definitely Frozen. When you go shopping, you hear it everywhere, and then all of a sudden you're like, fine,
Right.
It keeps the kids quiet for an hour, so I'll totally enjoy it now.
Okay. The movies are so much better now than when we were kids. With the cartoons and everything like that. There's so much more sophisticated. All right, being a mom now, what's your go-to meal? You got the kids are screaming, they're starving. You got to get something on the table in the next 10 minutes. What's your go-to? Calm them, quiet them down. What's your technique? And maybe it's not a meal. Maybe it's a trick you have. What's your secret weapon?
You know what? My kids love jelly and bread. If that could be a snack for them, they are just totally into it. We do organic jelly. They don't know the difference, and just plop that on, and that'll keep them quiet for at least 15 minutes while I'm trying to cook some food.
Awesome. Jelly and bread. Awesome. No peanut butter. Just the jelly.
Just for a snack, it's jelly and bread. My oldest will do a peanut butter and honey sandwich with sliced bananas. My youngest will do the peanut butter and jelly.
Nice. Okay.
Yes.
Well, so anybody watch, if you need a quick trick
to
stop a screaming child, try jelly and bread.
Not toast. It has to be bread.
Any particular kind of bread? Just bread in general.
Whatever your child will eat, I suppose. Yeah. I mean, we're wheat people, but you can do whatever you need.
Okay. And then finally, you mentioned you're a big fan of the Backstreet Boys.
Yes. Well, I was, I suppose, when I was younger.
Okay. So one two-part question. One pertaining to the Backstreet Boys. Who is your favorite Backstreet Boy?
Kevin.
Okay. And two, musically related now, what is your current favorite band if you have one? Like what would be in your iPod if you weren't listening to a podcast?
My husband says I'm cheating on him with Adele. So I often have Hello on repeat at this moment until her album comes out. So
now, shouldn't he be worried though? Because doesn't she sing about breakups and stuff? Now you're
she does.
Divorce papers are signed and ready.
That's what he says. He's like, so what are you just thinking about your ex-boyfriend? So I'm like, it's not the lyrics, it's her voice. She could be singing about going to the restroom. I don't care. It's her voice. It's fabulous.
Now I'm going to think about Adele going to the restroom every time. Thank you very much. Well, Courtney, please plug yourself, how people can find you, where they can find you, your sites, and what they should know and what they should do to follow you.
Yeah, you can follow us. You can go to our herfantasyfootball.com and listen to our podcast there on Blog Talk Radio /herfantasyfootball and on iTunes, Stitcher, all that good stuff. We're pretty much everywhere for our podcast. And then make sure you subscribe so you can play our dice game we do with FanDuel, where we give you 4 ingredients for your lineup that week. Also, you can hear us on SiriusXM every Saturday night from 8 to 10 on Fantasy Sports Radio. So you can talk to us on Twitter at HerFantasyFB, and I'm at Courtney HerFFB.
Awesome. I'm going to have your Twitter handle up so people can follow you. I will say this, and I will say this to your sisters if and when they are on. They will be on in the future. Courtney is the best sister to follow, and of course, I will tell Ashley and Brandon. But Courtney is the best of the sisters. So I want to thank you again for joining me today and being a breakthrough. This is like a major milestone in the short time I've been doing these Hanging Einstein. So thank you for being the first and setting the bar high for my future guests with this.
Hey, thank you so much. Thanks a lot for having us. It's fun to be a woman in a man's world sometimes. So we're getting a lot of more women out there. So it's great. It's a lot of fun.
You should have them all. So happy birthday to your daughter tomorrow. Happy
Thank you.
Birthday. And good luck the rest of the way with the fishbowl. And I'll talk to you soon.
Andy, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.